guest tonight is Jessie Kabwila, spokesperson for the Malawi Congress Party, MCP.
Dr. Jessie Kabwila, many thanks for joining us in this edition of Kabwila Straight Talk. Most welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You started with fire on your position as a spokesperson of the Malawi Congress Party when the party was preparing for elections last year, but you have fizzled. What is happening to you?
However, it's fizzled. I think I've just started by telling you the stand that Malawi Congress Party took on MSD. I think people must also separate my voice as an individual and my voice as a spokesperson of the party. But the party wants to talk.
But the moment you joined politics, and MCP to be specific, Malawians knew you as somebody who was vocal.
Yes, and I'm still vocal, but they must understand that I'm no longer Jessie Kabwila on her own. I am spokesperson of the biggest, most correct, largest party in the country.
So what has changed in you? Because you have admitted that you were vocal. Why have been quiet? What has changed in you? And who has changed you?
No, I'm saying I was vocal. All right? Now I am no longer speaking in my individual capacity. I speak for an institution. I speak for the largest party in the country. I only speak when it authorizes me to talk. That's different from being an activist. People must understand that I'm not just an activist now. I am also a political person, and when you're in politics, you don't speak whenever you get a whim to talk.
The difference that I'm talking about here is not coming from when you were an activist and now that you are in the mainstream politics, but when you had just joined the Malawi Congress Party, yes.
Okay. Look, like what I'm telling you, when there's an issue and the party says we should do this, I will speak. I'm someone who does not keep quiet when Malawi Congress Party instructs me to say something. But you must understand that I move at the pace and at the voice of the supporters and the structures of Malawi Congress Party.
Yes. Which tells me that you are no longer free.
No. Politics is not about freedom. It's actually about servitude to the masses. You are indebted and you only do what the masses want you to do. When they say our ambulances are not running and we are eating once a day as if we're in prison in hospitals, and when they say we haven't received fertilizer yet, this government is telling us we are billionaires when we are poor, you speak. When you're in parliament, you speak through standing orders and you follow that. When you're in a committee representing MCP, you speak through that. So what we need to understand is people must accept and understand that the positionality of Jessie Kabwila as of now depends on which role she's playing. But believe you me, I am somebody who does her utmost. Just yesterday, I was at a wedding representing Malawi Congress Party, and I stood up and I called everybody to say whoever loves this party and is happy to come to this wedding, come forward. I spoke for them. And
you spoke at a wedding?
For me, I speak at weddings. Even when I'm passing through the streets, people see me happily waving my MCP flag.
So your party is now campaigning in weddings?
No, I don't think we would say campaign. Campaign will be opened 2019 at the right time.
Yeah, but you're talking about people that love your party here.
Yes, and I think it all depends. We are the party that we celebrate, that we want to preach to everybody. I think there's a difference between campaigning and marketing and celebrating your identity. We are the only party that has not done cash yet. We are the only party that has got 31 years full proof of knowing how to govern. That's a lot to celebrate for. We are the only party that said don't sell NSB. We are the only party that said do not steal from people. Don't boast that you went to the UN and wasted their money. That's a lot to celebrate for. Look, even our clothes.
So are you telling me that the Malawi Congress Party is a party that is clean?
Yeah, the word I can use is almost spotless.
Almost spotless.
I don't think clean will define our what a part of integrity.
Which is better? Which is better, clean and spotless?
I think I was just trying to. It shouldn't be about a competition of terms, but much more an apt way of describing what a great and mighty party Malawi Congress Party is. That's what I was saying.
This is quite interesting, Honorable Kabwila, because looking at your party, it lost elections in 1994 when Kamuzu represented it. That time the party won. Since then, your party has been losing elections. What do you think has changed in your party?
I think what you would say is the word lost, you've used it correctly when we moved from single party or dictatorship to multi-party. Yes, we lost that. But that is the end of the use of that word. From there, we've had elections stolen from us. And I think you can see, even Ligomeka has said it clearly that he wants his money, because 2014 elections were rigged. And actually the headquarters of the rigging, if we quote Dr. Joyce Banda, the former president, was at the headquarters of the Professor Peter Mutharika. So look, we have not been losing elections since 1994. We lost the 1994. But after that, they've been stealing an election from us. We have had the people right from the late, what's this guy, the one who passed away was in UDF, who made it very clear that he had stolen election from Gwanda.
That was MCP. That was not MCP at all.
Well, Gwanda was standing for MCP then.
It was in the coalition, not MCP.
Yes, but what I'm saying is he was heading that's a coalition that included us. And the person who stood as the one who had been on our party, I think, remember, Gwanda was once our leader, right? And when he was standing there, he was part of us. We lost, we didn't lose that election.
So if indeed UDF stole that election in 1999, did they rob MCP of a victory or was on a coalition?
I think they robbed of a coalition that included the MCP. They robbed Malawi Congress Party for victory. It's very foolproof. I would like to invite every listener to go and look at what Ligomeka is saying. It shows you that we have an illegitimate government. It shows you that we are being ruled by people who, not the ones who won.
We'll look into that in a moment. But still talking about your party, it is a party that is still described as a part of death and darkness. And my question is, what do you think have changed in your party if you have to look at MCP of Kamuzu Banda and MCP of today? What do you think has changed really?
Let me address this issue of death and darkness.
How do you intend to address it?
Congress Party, we are the people who never ever refuse that we come from a troubled past, especially when it comes to human rights. Dr. Chakwera, the president, has been addressing this over and over, okay? But the fact of the matter is, whatever it is we did wrong on human rights happened under one party rule. But look at what DPP is doing now. Let me finish. Death and darkness is what is happening in our hospitals today. When you pass a budget and ambulances are not running, and you know that this means women will be dying when they're going to give birth, that is death and darkness. If you are going to fail to do agriculture, FISP is not working as we are having, that is death and darkness. So what I would say, if you say what has changed, we are not killing people in broad daylight the way DPP is doing.
Do you think that history, that background is still haunting you? Because
not at all. If we had been haunted by that, we would not have been winning these by-elections the way we are winning. If we were haunted by
which elections are you talking about? Which elections have you won?
I think there were by-elections first, if I'm not wrong, if you look at 2015, we won in Zuzu, right? We also won in Jew. Now we've recently won in Mchinji and Lilongwe. And if you go and look at the history of by-elections throughout the world, they are won by a ruling party. But in Malawi, we have taken the ruling party to school. We are winning them 2 out of 3, or at least scoring 1 in each time. And if you go and look at the vote buying that is being done by the ruling party, it is God's grace that we've managed to win the way we've won. But the good thing is we've done it. We've held our base, and we've won without cheating, without even vote buying in any way.
It's interesting that you're saying that your party has changed and that your leadership has been addressing this issue of associating your party with death and darkness. But then you still believe in 4 cornerstones. That's obedience, loyalty, unity, and discipline. Now, people are asking to say, how can we talk about obedience in a democracy? Do we have obedience in democracy? Loyalty? Loyal to who?
And before I go there, I want to underline here that death and darkness, we are not the people who killed Jaso. We are not the people who did the academic freedom struggle. We are not the people who killed people on July 20.
Yeah, but people associate your party with the death of people like David Chiwanga, Sangala, Matenje.
And I agree with you. And all I'm telling you is, let us also associate DPP with the killing of Jasoa, the killing of July 20.
Yes, but I'm talking to you as spokesperson of the Malawi Congress Party.
Yeah, and what I'm saying is, before you label us death and darkness, remember, whatever death and darkness that happened in MCP was during a single party rule. We did not kill people during democracy. And we have apologized profusely for our mistakes, I think it needs to come to an end to describe as the death and darkness. When you have a sitting government that is killing people through policy and through implementation, and they can even boast that they can take money for the hospital and go and have a party in New York, that is death and darkness. And what I'm saying is the media needs to stop calling us death and darkness when we all see who is killing people in 2015. And we are going into 2016, many people are dying of hunger and nobody's doing anything. If anything, they are coming to us and politicizing institutions, politicizing hunger, giving it out in during parties. So from today onwards, I would like people to understand Malawi Congress Party is not a death and darkness party. In fact, DPP is the party that is full of death and darkness.
I'm sure people,
all of that.
I'm sure people that are listening to you now would be interested in knowing how you have handled things that you claim that this administration is failing to handle. But before we go to that issue,
you had actually asked me something else. I think you had asked me. I was trying to address the death and darkness before you asked another question.
I was looking at the issue of four cornerstones, obedience. Now,
that's very important.
Is it in tandem with democracy?
Very relevant. Extremely tandem. Let me explain to you why. If people in this country, if DPP, if UDF, if PP subscribe to the four cornerstones, you cannot do casket if you subscribe to obedience. You cannot do politicization of institutions, only hiring people from one ethnic group if you subscribe to unity. The four cornerstones are very, very relevant. If you look at Malawi Congress Party, it is the only party that has developed in this country because of those four cornerstones that are very, very relevant to the 21st century. If you believe in the four cornerstones of obedience, you will have a lot of patriotism, you believe in unity, you believe in moving together and making sure that this country has got quality. You would not have a civil service, a police force that is linked to so much corruption. If you look at corruption, it is because people have moved away from the four cornerstones. The four cornerstones should actually form part of our curriculum, because I will tell you, we cannot fight casket if we do not believe in having integrity and respecting those four cornerstones.
If you stick to these cornerstones, do you think you're not reminding Malawians of your past, all sorts of atrocities that you are admitting that they did happen?
What I'm trying to tell you is there are people in this country who know that Malawi Congress Party and the four cornerstones were not all a disaster. If anything, if you look at roads, it's us who left good roads. If you look at education, it is us who left that. If you look at governance in terms of civil service, all these civil reforms we're talking about, let's look at Bingu's first term, which was very successful. Do you know why it was that way? Why he managed to get food security? Because he used the concept that Kamuzu used in terms of agriculture. Because he used what MCP believed in the 31 years. When we talk of four cornerstones, we are not saying go back to the killing of Gadama or the killing of whatever. We are saying go back to having integrity, being united, not looking at Njewa, not looking at Ntumboka, not looking at Nyakyusa, but looking at a Malawian. That's what we are talking about. In fact, Malawi is better off going back to those four cornerstones than moving away from it. If you look at UDF rule, it was the time when institutions died, when things were just done without any policy, and if there's a time when we saw a lot of companies dying, it was that time. What had we done? We had departed from the concept that MCP had employed in order for 31 years to survive. Let you talk of Capitol Hill, it is because of Malawi Congress Party. You talk about the education, it is because of us. So four cornerstones are actually a strength and not a weakness.
Today in the program, I'm talking to Jessie Kabwila, spokesperson for the Malawi Congress Party, MCP.
Let's move on to the issue of your party being robbed of victory. You keep on talking about this issue, yes. But people say that that failure was your own making as a party. You don't have that support in other regions apart from the center.
That's a very erroneous look at Malawi Congress Party. I think for people who say the loss, which is not a loss, but say the robbing of the elections at that time was our fault, go and ask Ligomeka. Ligomeka will tell you what he did and why he's asking for his money to be paid back. Go and ask the MHRC report. which will tell you that these results are not right. Go and ask Justice Ndetela himself why he wanted a recount. It is not because we didn't have people standing.
But politically, how did you expect to win that election when you failed to field candidates in 36 constituencies?
My brother, PP fielded people everywhere. Winning an election is not only because you fielded people everywhere. If people are rigging elections, you can field people from here up to Egypt, Cape to Cairo. You will not win that election if the judiciary works together with MEC to make sure that you don't win the election. If Ligomega is telling you what they did, we could have filled every position.
But surely, the failure to field candidates in 36 constituencies is a sign of weakness on your part as a party, isn't it?
I think that we should have fielded people is something which we will never dispute, all right? And we are working on it. But that should not be used as a proof of why the election was stolen from us. The election was stolen because DPP are thieves. DPP people know how to steal elections. That's why the election was stolen. That should be separated from what Malawi Congress Party needs to do in order for us to be a stronger force, in order for us to be more representative and to get more participation. But that should never ever be used as a result of that's why you are not in government today. We are not in government today because DPP stole the election and we have got thieves in government.
People accuse your party, accuse people like yourself, Honorable Kabwila, of failing to provide constructive criticism to the government. Said you focus on issues like the one that you're talking about here, being robbed of a victory last year.
That, once again, it's very sad that some people choose to be selective. People like me have not only sat down in the whole year and talked about a lost election, we've also participated in oversight. We have been giving solutions in parliament. We have been sitting there and been a very constructive opposition party. Look, who talked about MSP? Who represented people? Who talked about fees being reduced? Was that about an election? I think it's very, very unfortunate that in Malawi people tend to be selective. Some people, I must say.
Should we believe your party? Because when you look at parliament, you are in parliament yourself. Most of the committees there are dominated by people from your own party. Most of those people that are heading those committees are from your party. And we are in this situation. Should we really trust your party either?
My brother, when you are driving a car, when you are a passenger in a car, and this car is called Malawi, and you are on the passenger side called the opposition, you should never mistake the direction the car is taking when the driver is DPP. The person who is responsible for where we are is DPP, and it is nobody else. They are in the driving seat. It is up to them to know where they're taking the country. People must not look at the opposition and say, where are we going? The best we can do is provide oversight and give constructive criticism. It should never be mistaken for us driving. We are not on the driver's seat. This is DPP's making. They are the ones who've landed us in a poor quarter. They are the ones who've landed us in a crisis in health. They are the ones who've landed us in a education crisis. As I'm talking, Jessie is no longer there. Standard 8 is not there. These are going to be implemented. MSB, we talked. We are not where we are because of opposition. We are where we are because of the people who are ruling, and ask them why they've landed us in this mess, and they seem committed to keeping us in this ditch forever. And in fact, they are celebrating. Malawians are poorer than they've ever been. We have seen a government before that stayed for 2 years. The one for PP. It didn't do the mess that we are seeing here. These guys are 2 years old, and we are 20 years in the dungeon. Why? Because they don't know what they are doing.
And recently,
they don't know when to put a cabinet on, and later on what to do when they go to the United Nations. Please, when it comes to the direction Malawi is facing, it is DPP and Professor Peter Mutharika who have to answer.
And recently, people accused, like your part in the parliament, like the issues of the purchase of expensive vehicles for the speaker and the leader of opposition, things like those. And recently, we also heard about the issue of tractors that some politicians bought. And we hear that the speaker himself bought one of the tractors that were meant for the poor. Why did you allow such things to happen?
Thank you. Let me address the issue of cars. The cars are not bought by Malawi Congress Party or by BP. They were bought by government. Once again, ask government why it bought those cars. Before you go to why they were allowed, I am saying, let us not look at the problem and not look at the source of the problem, and look at the person who is given entitlements. Go and ask government, why did you buy this? And they didn't just buy for Jabir. They bought for the vice president. They bought for the ministers. So before we can come to opposition and say, why did you receive this? My question is, we even offered. If it means moving in Corollas, we have no problems moving in a Corolla at all. What we want is to get to Parliament and save Malawians. What we want is to be able to go out there and see Malawians. And if we need to get onto a bike to do that, we will do it, as long as everybody is doing that. As long as Malawians learn to ask who bought these things for this. Now this selective inquiry, where we just ask Kabwila, when we don't ask the VP, we don't ask the ministers. Why? Because they're in the ruling party. No, that is not fair. Malawians should learn to tell the truth. On the tractors, the truth of the matter is, the tractors were bought to help farmers. They were not bought in order to be resold. So the question is, who floated those tenders? Now, when the tenders were floated, everybody applied. Look, those tractors were bought by PSs. I think the harder question is not to look at the individual Msowoya, but is to look at why do we have government personnel participating in this. Those are the questions we should ask. And as for Malawi Congress Party, we are willing to be tested, to be put on a test, and this should be investigated without fear or favor. Our speaker must be checked. Did he buy them behind the door, or did he respond to a tender that was floated? And the question would be, why was that tender floated, and who floated it? And you'll find that it was government. Once again, why is this government doing this? Why is it not giving these tractors to poor people? Why is it floating it for other people to buy? And majority of the people who bought are political people. And those are the questions we should be asking.
You've told me that you are addressing the problem of you are not enjoying support in other regions, apart from the central region. How are you addressing that problem?
I think you've seen us. We have been participating whenever there's been a by-election. We've been there and we've done our best. We've picked some, we've dropped some. We've also had regional elections where we are restoring our structures, and we're making sure that this is going to be done throughout the country. I think strengthening of our structures is what we are using. We are also using the youth as a wing a lot. Yeah, so yes, we are looking into strengthening our structures, marketing our party most, and making sure that we hold our base, and then we increase our base so that people see. Remember, Malawi Congress Party is the only party that is national. Our presidents have been coming, some from the north. We've had a president from the south. Now we are having one at the center. If you start off, where did the party start? It actually started in the north. So for us, we have not had a problem growing the party at all. All it has meant is revisiting the areas that are historical. For example, I think you saw us in Rumpi. We even went to Chitipa, where we have got like the first place where Malawi, Kamuzu left structures such as houses, where we held the first meeting for Malawi Congress Party. We've been going there, and that was in the north. We've also been to the south. And we've been in the east in Mangoch, where we've been received with open arms. So if you say what have we been doing, rallies, door-to-door campaigns.
So things are getting better for you?
Not only better, they are brilliant. That's why always you hear me when you say, who are we speaking to? I tell you are speaking to the spokesperson of the Malawi Congress.
Recently, there are issues concerning the education sector in which you are an expert. Issues to do with fees, proposing that fees should be hiked, things like those. How do you understand this issue?
I think our stand as a party is that the fees hike was done, firstly, bypassing Parliament. Government just moved on its own, which is a problem, because policy needs to have representation of all the parties, which is where Parliament comes in. The next problem we had is, we all know that there's hunger, which at the back, before we were saying looming, it is actually here. This is not the year for us to effect a tuition increase. I think what we found much more troubling is the fact that when it comes to secondary school, no safety mechanism or way for the poor to be able to get these bursaries was put in. So what we knew is coming in of tuition at this time will increase child marriages, because many people will not be able to send girl child to school. The poor will not even be able to send sons to school. And what will happen is people will just be getting married, which will defeat the Marriage and Divorce Relations Act that we passed. In a nutshell, the increase of fees was done very, very unconstitutionally, wrongly, and very bad timing, in a way that does not give ways for the poor to find a way to go. So for us, that's why we were left with no choice but to work with our colleagues in opposition to say this fees hike should be stopped. The other complaint we had is cessation of certification in Jessie and the Standard 8. Our problem being...
What's your concern? Because the reason that we are getting from the government is that that certificate is no longer in use.
I think they should also learn to tell the truth. The Minister of Education, with due respect, should tell the truth. The results, I mean, the reasons they advanced for stopping Jessie and the Standard 8 certification was finance.
Honorable, time is up. We have to conclude now. You joined politics, leaving your work as a lecturer in the University of Malawi. Do you think your goal is fulfilled in joining politics?
I think my goal is a process. It is not an event. If I talk about it being fulfilled right now, it would be a lie. My goal in joining politics was to remove thieves from government. And as you can see, we still have thieves in government, so I haven't fulfilled that. So my goal is to get rid of...
Time is up, but let me once again thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, and I would like to wish the listeners Merry Christmas. And I think 2016 should be the year that Malawians must speak. We've been persevering for too long. We need to deal with this. Merry Christmas. Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you very much indeed, and wish you well.
Zeko.